championship points in North America at 360 points. Of course, the top 16 players at the end of the season get an automatic Day 2 invite to Worlds, so that's something Andrew is definitely chasing. And I'm really excited to see this guy up on the stage. Grafton Roll. Now, if you were watching Pokemon Regional Championships back in like 2016, 2017, Grafton is a player who you would absolutely be expecting to see on a stream match throughout the course of a regional championships. He hasn't been playing the last few years, but he's a local here to Orlando, so you know what? We got a big regional championships. Might as well come back out, play once again, and he is rocking a Lost Box deck, and I'm excited to see it.
Nice, get that home field advantage, and we've seen these players as well take a little bit of a hiatus from competitive, and just focus on other things, and sometimes when you take that break and you come back, you have that fresh perspective on the metagame, and that can give you an edge. Opting for Lost Box as well, I think has become the poster child for that flexible archetype that allows you to target specific aspects of the metagame. Andrew Gantner as well on that arc Duraludon, another strong call out for the meta.
Yeah, it actually looks like whenever Andrew was placing his prizes out, he yeah, we do see that Arc Duraludon there. So yep, sure enough, Arceus V in the active. Looks like I saw some like water energies in the prizes, so I'm not sure what was happening there.
There's some interesting technology in there, perhaps.
I don't
we'll
think,
get to it.
Not sure exactly what was going on there, but yeah, it looks like Grafton is kicking it off.
Yep, with the capture energies, going to take a quick look through the deck, of course, figure out where the prizes are landing. This is step one of piloting that Lost Zone deck, Chip, is knowing where all of your energies are, knowing where all of your bits and pieces are located.
Yeah, super important in this version of the deck, especially. Grafton's got a lot of spicy things in here. He's got Galarian Zapdos V. That's a super important card for this matchup. He's got the Sky Seal Stone. That is going to be supremely important in this matchup because it allows you to effectively only take 2 knockouts to win the game, because you can take 3 prize cards knocking out a Arceus V and then 3 on a Duraludon, or you can take 2 on an Arceus V Star and then 4 on a Duraludon to close out the game. So that's how you can map out your 6 prize cards. Sky Seal Stone is something I expect to be supremely important here for Grafton.
Grafton's going to have that at top of mind for certain, Chip. And of course, Quick Ball, discarding the Galarian Zigzagoon, going to find the Radiant Greninja. Already a beautiful foundation set up. 2 Comfey in play, and now with Radiant Greninja, we're going to see a lot of cards here already on Grafton's first turn. If you can get, those 4 cards in the Lost Zone, get pressure with the Cramorant ready to go, it immediately becomes a cascade, an avalanche of Lost Zoned cards that put your opponent under so much pressure. If Andrew falls too far behind, the Duraludon VMAX isn't going to be there to take this big amount of damage. Second Comfey comes up to the active spot, another Flower Selecting. Double checking the hand, this must be a slightly tougher choice, Chip.
Yep, this is something you're used to seeing as a Lost Zone player. Every flower selecting feels painful because you are sending cards to the Lost Zone, quite different from the discard pile, something you are not going to have access to for the rest of the game. So before you put a card there, you have to make sure you are okay playing the rest of the game without that piece.
And so just passes, just a more of a passive turn, but this is setting up for probably something a little bit more explosive for Grafton. Andrew with the Arceus in the active spot, just opens with the Poke Gear.
Looks like Andrew does have the double turbo energy, so that means we could see the Trinity Charge here on turn 1, which is super strong for this Duraludon deck, but I'm not sure if there's a way to get down a Duraludon V just yet.
Marnie, fortunately, is grabbed. This is such a key card when you're up against the Lost Box.
Yes.
With the Flower Selectings, the Colress Experiment, the hands get very huge. And if you can detect that your opponent is setting up for some big combo turn, get that well-timed Marnie Disruption to keep yourself in the game.
Does look like Andrew has a Ultra Ball in hand, so that at minimum could get the Duraludon. We'll see how he navigates the rest of this. He is shuffling up here, so might have something else he wants to play first. Looks like Colress's Experiment off the top. Okay, holding the Marnie for the next turn.
Beautiful. Colress's Experiment finding its way into a lot of these control decks because you just have so many options. You need specific cards. You know that there are certain cards you have teched for matchups that aren't going to be useful. Very easy to send to the Lost Zone. There it is, a VMAX and a Boss's Orders going to the Lost Zone for Andrew.
A little awkward to have to see 2 Duraludon VMAX in that Colress's Experiment, but you're okay losing 1. You do play a 2-3 line, so as long as you can still have access to that 3rd and final VMAX, be it through the Single Strike Mustard or manually evolving up through a Duraludon V, I think Andrew will be just fine with losing 1.
And as you said, Chip, the Ultra Ball does indeed come through. Duraludon V now entering the bench. And now Arceus V, potentially, if we have that double turbo energy, going to go for that Trinity charge, get the energies attached. We know that these Arceus Duraludon lists, this is where they're at their most weak, before they complete their setup. If you can get some early tempo with a Cramorant or a lot of damage threat in play, they can't really get that beautiful skyscraper ability down and that big HP pool mind.
Yep. It's all about getting to that Duraludon VMAX, that massive HP, that ability, like you mentioned, and trying to take advantage of, you know, the meta in general. Now, Grafton does play a few special energy, so he'll have to keep that in mind. He won't be able to attack into a Duraludon VMAX if he puts his special energy in the wrong place. Grafton actually does play a key card for this matchup in the Crabominable V with its Destroyer Punch attack, which deals 90 damage plus 60 more damage for each damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if he can just get 4 damage counters to stick on a Duraludon VMAX, Destroyer Punch could come in and take a one-hit knockout. In
game number 1, a absolutely filthy tech card like that is going to be at its
Andrew's
strongest.
Probably not going to be expecting it.
This was something that we saw a long time ago with the Crabominable V, trying to take down, you know, Mewtwo V Union, having that big one-hit knockout punch.
Exactly.
And Lost Box has opted for things like Giratina, et cetera, in order to get those larger numbers. But Crabominable V going to be a card we're keeping an eye out for, Chip. But Andrew, again, has the double turbo energy attachment, just navigating the rest of the turn, figuring out what the next step is going to be after that Trinity charge. Things are back over to Grafton.
Having the Lost Zone, a couple cards here. Losing the Roxanne is a little unfortunate. That's kind of an interesting tech. Not something you see too often in these Lost Zone decks, but now it gets him up to 5 cards in the Lost Zone, just 2 away from getting to Mirage Gate.
Manaphy also being sent to the Lost Zone here from, excuse me, the discard pile from the Quick Ball. I see, just the Quick Ball.
That new Manaphy from Crown Zenith, love that.
Yeah, it took me a second to recognize the art chip. That is beautiful.
From that Galarian Gallery, super cool to see players using those. Now Grafton here with the Quick Ball, maybe wants to just get Cramorant and try to throw some damage in play. At this point, he's already used one Comfey. He's already used Chorus's Experiment. It's probably going to be a little difficult to get to 7 cards in the Lost Zone this turn, plus have access to Mirage Gate and an attacker you would want to utilize. So
Scoop
he
up
may
net.
still go for it. We'll see if he can get there.
All right, yeah, still going for that big Lost Zone. Once again, we saw turn 1 for Grafton be a little bit more tame, and now the gates are really opening wide to send tons of cards to the Lost Zone. We can see there at the bottom that there's already 5 and now 6. So slowly but surely, Mirage Gate's now becoming a threat. That Lost Mine's now becoming a threat. Andrew, fortunately, has the Duraludon V on the bench with the energy attached, is almost completing his setup. Escape Rope now sending another Comfey up to the active spot for that final flower selecting, getting 7 into the Lost Zone. Lightning energy going there. That's going to be very key. Again, only 2 lightning energy in the deck. So now we know there's 1 in the Lost Zone. Yep. And we have to just be very cognizant of where that last one is in case, you know, that Raikou does want to come out.
So there is 7 cards in the Lost Zone now, but I don't think there's a way for Grafton to get a knockout on this Duraludon. It would be really nice to at least get a hit in on it, which looks like
the
that might
hitting
be
the bench.
The route he's going with here by putting this Cramorant down. Now, something I didn't mention initially, but, you know, now it's kind of, as we've thought about it and kind of looked at the prize cards a little bit more, Grafton actually prized 2 basic water, he prized a Wash Energy, and he also prized a Galarian Zapdos V and 2 Colress. Honestly, 6 really tough prize cards just in general, but in this matchup especially, that Zapdos is really strong. He only has 1 basic water energy left, so he actually cannot use that Crabominable until he starts to take prize cards.
And if Andrew just walls him out and says, well, I have some damage on Duraludon, I'm just going to heal it back up. I've got the Hyper Potion, just being as safe as possible. Grafton will just be stonewalled from here. Here's the evolution. Duraludon V Max now in the active spot, and the Marnie for that big disruption.
Going for the disruption, and on the other end of this Marnie will still have access to Starbirth. Andrew is really fortunate in this spot that he did not have to use Starbirth to set up. That's usually what we have to see from the Duraludon players, but yeah, it didn't end up happening. His hand was strong enough, so now he has the luxury of using Starbirth to maybe heal this Duraludon, and we'll see what route he wants to go.
After taking a look at what 5 cards you get off of Marnie, this is going to be a pivotal decision, I would say, Chip.
Absolutely is going to bench the other Duraludon. V has an Ultra Ball in hand, so that can find the V Max necessary. There also is a double turbo there, so that Hyper Potion play is available if he wants to. Oh, no, sorry. He has already attached Return to the benched Arceus, it looks like. So wouldn't be able to do it here. Maybe isn't going to be
the Lost City.
Yeah, isn't going to be too worried about this this Duraludon going down this turn, so isn't worried about healing. For now, we'll just go with the Lost City and get rid of this Cramorant.
Yeah, so Lost City, once the Pokemon is knocked out, instead of going to the discard pile, goes to the Lost Zone. That helps Grafton a little bit, ironically, but the fact of the matter is, if the Cramorant and perhaps that second Sableye, right, go to the Lost Zone, then that's just a threat you no longer have to worry about. So now that we've evaluated Grafton's prize cards, we see that Andrew is in a very powerful spot with the second threat of the VMAX and Starbirth still available. You know, things can get very dicey here for Grafton, even get a foothold in this first game.
Yeah, and that was a great turn for Andrew as well to play the Marnie, because Grafton was starting to build a large hand, so play that Marnie, disrupt him a little bit. Grafton has already done a good job getting that hand size up just a little bit. Concealed cards plus the flower selecting will do that for you. It looks like he has access to Raihan potentially. We'll start here, though, with the Oranguru. Primate Wisdom has a few scoop-up nets to work with.
Especially after seeing that Marnie, we've seen Oranguru really become more and more popular over time as Marnie has come back into the metagame. We've got a scoop-up net to reset the Radiant Greninja, going to discard another energy. A lot of energy now in the discard pile, Chip, but Grafton just really needs to find that water energy. After looking through the deck a couple times, is probably very aware it's in the prizes, is already trying to figure out a line to try to get at least one knockout to see 2 shots at getting that water energy that's going to be needed.
He does have Snorlax in hand. That could be an attacker for him here. So that could be an option. He does have a couple of Raihan in the hand. I don't think he's going to be able to get a knockout on this Duraludon on this turn, so he's just trying to find out the best way for him to hit it. And in this flower selecting, it looks like he does see that water energy, but what was the other card? Because he is debating it here.
Oh no, you've got to take the water. The other card has got to go to the Lost Zone. These are these heartbreaking decisions, Chip, that seems to happen with these incredibly intricate Lost Zone decks, right? Where you're only running 2 energy of this type, 2 energy of that type. It must have been a good card.
Yeah.
The Crabominable's off the table for now.
It looks like it was Capture Energy, actually, so seems like Grafton wants that option to get a Pokemon out of the deck here. Could be another Cramorant swing turn, potentially.
With that Lost City, I don't know if Grafton's thinking about going for just some cheeky Sableye line, but now with the Lost City threatening, that's a little dangerous as well, Chip.
Yeah, this is really looking a little awkward here for Grafton. He can swing with the Snorlax, like I mentioned. That might be his best play, and then next turn try to go for, like, Raikou V plus Sky Seal Stone. I think he's got that in the deck. Yep, does have the Raikou V. So that could be an option for him, and try to take 4 prizes onto this Duraludon. But Sableye as an attacker is an option as well, but he would need to Mirage Gate now since he's already attached for turn.
Yeah, I think maybe Grafton is just going to go for a nice Lost Mine. Just sprinkle some damage around, and maybe the idea is if there's enough damage spread around on enough targets, Andrew's just not going to be able to heal them all up fast enough, and then you kind of get to pick your choices of what prizes you want to get for your knockouts. It's going to be very difficult from this position, however, but Grafton has a plan. We can see he's moving very confidently here, Chip.
And the Raihan is going to be the way, yep, to get that energy back into play. I was going to say, I don't notice a Mirage Gate there, but Raihan will work just fine. Now, what is the card he wants to stack here is the question. Mirage Gate for next turn could be an option.
Yeah, Mirage Gate, I think, is probably one of the best, and you can see he's going to take the moment to reevaluate the entire deck. Maybe the Raikou is just grabbed, put on the bench. We can start setting up for that Lightning Rondo, but if you... Would it be too dangerous to bench that Raikou V before the Mirage Gate? And then if you keep it in the hand, you're weak to Marnie. Yeah, you've already used Primate Wisdom.
With Andrew having access to Starbirth this turn, I don't think you can bench the Raikou here, because he could just go Starbirth and guaranteed get boss's orders, take 2 prizes on it. And that just gets your opponent way too far ahead into the trade. This is, regardless, I think, looking like a really strong position for Andrew, because Lost Mine, while it will spread 12 damage counters, this is going to be where those Hyper Potions come into play.
Benching the Comfey and kicks the Lost City now with the training court. So this Sableye will be a little bit more safe. There's tons of energy in the discard pile already thanks to that Radiant Greninja. Going to get the Lightning energy back. And we just have to hopefully have that Ordinary Rod too. There's one in the hand, but if the Marnie comes through, it might be difficult to get this Sableye. This is, you know, the first win condition, that if you're playing Lost Zone, the Sableye is really what you want to carry you in the mid-late game. And we'll see if just going back to basics is how Grafton Roll is going to take this first game. Just lost mine, ordinary rods, lost mine. Damage being distributed right now. 12 damage counters any way you like.
Yeah, spreading them out. I think I'd like to see, maybe would have liked to have seen 2 more damage counters go onto the Duraludon. That would put it at 170 damage on it, which would mean that you could come in with a Raikou V next turn with a full bench and deal 160 with the Sky Seal Stone to take the knockout. But this also could just be the fact that Grafton is anticipating that inevitable Hyper Potion, it feels like at this point.
It's so difficult. You want to extend, but you have to really hedge your bets. And Andrew, now we can see the double turbo in hand and fluttering the cards very swiftly. We have Colress's Experiment, which is nice, and does pull the trigger on the Starbirth. Going to look for 2 cards here.
Yeah, I wonder if he could go for a Hyper Potion and maybe Lost City is the other card, just get this Sableye out of play, but he might
that would be so strong.
Super worried about it and might value Marnie a bit more, as that seems to be the card he's grabbed.
Yeah, running 3 copies of Lost City, the Marnie for the disruption, really valuing that here in the mid-late game. Knows that he's so far ahead that Grafton has to have bigger setup turns, more draws, more flower selectings in order to get those key cards to put together the combo, and he's just going to keep disrupting. This is, again, I would say, going back to basics for Arc Duraludon, just having something big in the active, your opponent struggling to KO, and then consistently disrupting all of their efforts to get the necessary pieces in hand to do so. There's a double turbo energy attachment, and then the Hyper Potion to discard that and heal 120 damage from the Duraludon. Still 3 damage counters on it, 1 off of setting up for the Crabominable, but Grafton has kind of already foregone that option.
Does have Evolution Incense and Ultra Ball in hand. Could grab the other Duraludon VMAX out, but for now will just be a Marnie, it seems. Shuffling both players' hands. Andrew will get 5, and now Grafton will get 4. And this is, that, like you said, what you want to do against these Lost Zone decks. Whenever they're building up large hands, hit them with the Marnie. Okay, they take another turn to rebuild. They Raihan, they, you know, concealed cards, flower selecting, all those things. So all of a sudden they have 6, 7, 8 cards in hand. You want to disrupt that once again. So really smart play here from Andrew. And that's the benefit of being able to save your V-Star power for a point in the game like this, not having to use it while you're setting up.
And once you disrupt the hand down to the bottom of the deck, you know, Lost Zone only has very specific things that they use to shuffle the deck, you know, quick balls and the like. They might have already been expended in the earlier parts of the game to get the comp phase and set up. And once that happens, maybe your opponent's like, okay, well, I'm already set up. I'm going to send these other quick balls to the Lost Zone. And then suddenly those cards are just down at the bottom of the deck. We are getting later and later into the game now, Chip. And that does mean that just by Lost Zoning everything, the deck's going to be very thin regardless. There's Lost City found, and Sableye going to the Lost Zone. That is the second Sableye now.
And grabs a Hyper Potion off of the prizes. Super strong position here for Andrew. Very little damage on his side of the field. Grafton is left with just a small hand size and trying to figure out how to respond. How can he get through this Duraludon? If he had access to Crabominable, all he would need was Galarian Zigzagoon, Mirage Gate, a Water Energy. Like, he could easily knock this out, but his Water Energies are just in the prize cards.
And this is the matchup where you cannot get access to those first couple prizes.
Right.
And it's looking so terrifying from this position, Chip. Once you have you have the tech, you have the Crabominable V, you know that you can take down this Duraludon, but it's just not coming through. Grafton pivoted to a different line with the Sableyes, but is now just getting locked out of the game with the 3 Lost Cities. I believe, you know, that first Sableye was sent to the Lost Zone on turn 1 and turn 2 because this was before the Lost City was revealed, and now Grafton is really paying the price.
This is looking like a very uphill battle at this point. Grafton really just trying to find
the ice
some
cue as well.
answer. Does have that Snorlax. That can come in and hit, but it's not going to take a knockout. Lost City is in play. And
has to scoop it. All of the important attackers that you need for this matchup are just unavailable through one way or another. Andrew also needs to pick up those other from the Lost, and there we go. And here's the thing. Grafton gets to just roll the dice and go again. The tech, it hasn't been revealed fully.
Yeah.
So it means that you can still get some value out of it in game number 2. Now that he's scoped out those Lost Cities, is going to make even more pivotal choices when it comes to the flower selecting. Now the Cramorants and the Sableyes, which you're thinking in a typical line, I can get rid of one, I have the other, plus Ordinary Rod, it's totally fine. But now the Sableye and the Cramorant's become even more important for those flower selectings for the Colress's experiment. So with so few energies that are so pivotal to setting up those attackers, Grafton is going to be under a lot of pressure here in the second game.
Yeah, Andrew did everything really well in that game. He did everything right. He got set up, ideally. He got his Duraludons up and running.
Still
he got
the
the turn 2 attack with the Arceus as well. He got the turn 1 Trinity Charge, I should say, actually. So, yeah, I mean, he did everything really well. Was able to utilize his Starbirth super smart that game to both heal his Duraludon and disrupt Grafton. So really disrupting Grafton in 2 ways, right? Because Grafton's entire deck is about getting damage in play and being able to do something with that knowledge moving forward. So by healing that damage out of play, it really limits what Grafton is able to do. And Grafton has the pieces available in his deck to beat this matchup. It's just going to be a question of, you know, what is he going to have access to, because he just didn't have everything he needed in that first game.
And after we shuffle and go, we just need the Abominable V. We need some water energy still in the deck, Chip.
Yep.
It's, you know, it's a tall order when you're relying on that one specific Pokemon for your matchup, and it's just not there. Double checking the list, he's on also one Heavy Ball. So if the Crab ends up in the prizes, as long as we got the water energy, it should be fine.
Yep. These players are getting set up. Looks like Andrew is going to take a mulligan.
Which is, you know, very common for our Duraludon. Those are the only Pokemon you have. And it's just a matter of, it's a choice you make. I'm giving my opponent extra cards in their starting hand, but I have to trust that my deck is just so strong and so consistent at doing what it wants to do. Ooh, much better prizes for Grafton here. Yeah,
the Zigzagoon could be a little awkward. That's one of those really key cards to help you fix some math, fix some damage, and can be a super important card when combined with Crabominable specifically. Did prize 1 Psychic Energy, so if he has to Lost Zone 1, that's something he's going to need to consider, because only having access to 1 means that's just 1 to work with for your Sableyes.
Yeah, the miracle, the dream, Chip, is, you know, Arceus V is just stranded in the active, and Cramorant can kind of have its way, and then we get that Zigzagoon right back out to set up to deal with the Duraludon.
Yep, and one of the things I like about Grafton's deck as well, this is something Kyle was talking about in the earlier section when it comes to Sky Seal Stone, is like, sure, it seems like a card that would be good in these Lost Zone decks, but how do you find it at the time you need it, right? You can't just guarantee that you'll draw into it. You don't have cards that search out specific trainers or anything like that in most traditional Lost Box builds. But what we've seen from Grafton is he's got a couple of Raihan in this list, so that's a card that combos with that very, very well, and I'm interested to see if we will see that Sky Seal Stone come into play this game, because this is certainly a matchup where it seems very, very strong.
This is where Grafton's idea of how to approach this metagame is going to be do or die, right? Here in the second game, Chip, there's still 35 minutes left on the clock. A lot of time for, this best of 3 to come to a resolution. Andrew feeling very, very good. When you're playing a control deck like this and you take that first win, you know that you don't have to try too hard, right? The second win will just come. And if your opponent, does manage to take that second game off of you, it's usually because they've revealed all of the tech cards and different capabilities that their list is capable of, and you go into game 3 with that much more knowledge and you just head them off at the pass.
Looks like we're seeing opening hand number 4 here for Andrew. Hopefully he can find a basic finally. It does indeed look like there are a couple of Arceus V in this opening hand. No double turbo this time, and Grafton will get 3 additional cards to work with.
It's fine. Give your opponent all the cards in the world, Chip. You've got Marnie. Yeah. It'll be totally fine. It doesn't matter how many cards your opponent starts with. The double turbos going into the top of the prize cards, however. The hyper potions going to be very awkward here. Arceus V and Arceus V Star also hitting the prizes. So a lot of important cards missing now for Andrew, starting with Arceus V in the active spot. Can we find anything? Grafton's going to get us opened up here. Radiant Greninja starting in the active spot. Oranguru uses its Primate Wisdom right away. We've got a Water Energy now in the hand. We'll see if Grafton's going to kick this right now. Yep, with the concealed card. Send that to the discard pile to draw 2 more. Training Court and the Sky Seal Stone picked up.
Does have the Sky Seal Stone, but no VIP pass and no Comfees just yet. Quick Ball can find one, and he does have Scoop Up Net in hand to reset this Greninja. get that Comfy into the active. So I think we've got a bit more coming in this turn. Does look like Colress's Experiment is in there for the next turn as well. Raihan hitting the discard pile, though, means that's one less way to potentially find your Sky Seal later. It is in the hand right now, but, you know, with the Marnies that Andrew plays, that Sky Seal Stone is not something you're going to feel like is going to be sticking around for long.
Yeah, so gets at least that down the road. This flower selecting has to do a lot of heavy lifting, I think, to really solidify this setup. Scoop up net gets the Radiant Greninja back to the hand. This allows you to promote the Comfade up to the active, and then it resets that concealed card's ability for the Radiant Greninja when it's re-bench. Flower selecting coming through. What do we got here? Oh, I didn't see it, Chip. I think there's another Comfey in there. Yes.
It looks like it's a Comfey and a Capture Energy. So we'll take the Comfey. I think Escape Rope is in the hand as a way to get it into the active spot here.
Beautiful. A lot of flower selectings now coming online for Grafton.
So what seemed like a kind of a weak turn has turned into a pretty decent one so far for Grafton. No Battle VIP pass or anything like that just yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's got it in the list.
Oh, is he not? Wow.
Yeah, with the Raikou and the Seal Stone and the Crab, something's got to give.
I just assumed that Battle VIP Pass was in the deck, right?
Same.
I mean, when's the last time you saw a Lost Box deck without Battle VIP Pass? But I mean, hey,
it's such good fodder.
If you can justify cutting Battle VIP Pass from your Lost Zone deck, that creates 4 spots for you to do things like play Sky Seal Stone and play Crabominable V. So, you know, the cuts had to come somewhere. It looks like Battle VIP Pass is the unsuspecting recipient of that cut.
And what this means is that Grafton is potentially going to be very slow to start. But if you miss that,
I mean, he got all his Pokemon still, right?
And the Cramorant is here. It did come through off that first flower selecting chip, so you got to give it up to him. I don't need Battle VIP Pass. I just got to flower select correctly.
Yes, there you go. It is a fail of the Pokegear there for Andrew. I didn't see any energy in the hand just yet, so it's looking already like it might be a bit of a slower go of things for Andrew.
Yeah, completely night and day from game number 1. Arceus V still in the active. Nothing to attach to even when you go for that Trinity Nova.
Yeah,
you have to self-attach.
The second Arceus V is never something that you want to put down, it feels like, in this deck. And here it is hitting the bench already. Did have an Ultra Ball in the hand. I wonder if Andrew could have used the Ultra Ball, gotten rid of a couple cards, gotten a Duraludon V, and then played the Pokegear. You thin a card out of your deck so that then you're more likely to find a supporter. As it stands, though, Andrew did miss off of the Pokegear and is now just going to have to pass to Grafton with 2 Arceus in play and no energies.
If you try to, and if you're forced to opt into this Arceus V line where you just have 2 V-Star or whatever you're doing, Power Edge and all of that, trying to deal damage, take a single prize, Grafton is just going to jump out ahead of you in that prize trade thanks to the Sky Seal Stone. And after the Colress's Experiment, we've got 4 in the Lost Zone. So now Cramorant, the miracle's happening, Chip. We get Cramorant now to deal 110 to this Arceus, threaten to get another KO.
Yeah, I was about to say, Grafton put the coin on this Comfey, but he had not used flower selecting yet, so it looks like they were realizing that. He was about to play Scoop Up Net, but realized, no, wait, I haven't used this ability yet, so definitely wanted to use that, get that one, now use the Scoop Up Net. We're at 5 cards in the Lost Zone, need to get 2 more down for Mirage Gate to be activated.
Beautiful. Raikou V actually hitting the Lost Zone.
Yeah,
that's not going to be the win con for this one, Chip.
No, I think Grafton is going to try to lean into that Galarian Zapdos V with its Fighting Instinct ability. Its attacks cost a colorless less for each Pokemon V your opponent has in play, so it can attack for just a Fighting and a colorless right now with that Thunderous Kick attack. So if Grafton is able to find that Zapdos and get to 7, which he's able to do now, he could start taking knockouts and force Andrew to respond. And Quick Ball, I got a feeling this is getting Zapdos.
Oh yeah, Quick Ball. It's all coming together, Chip. You know that Andrew's had a very awkward start here. Doesn't even have V-Star in play to get the Starbirth to kind of dig back out of this hole. Galarian Zapdos V, beautiful alternate art, hitting the bench here. That Fighting Instinct's going to be beautiful. There's already fighting energy in the hand. This is ready to go. There's going to be early prizes and a lot of pressure onto Andrew Gantner.
And there's really nothing Andrew can do to respond to this Galarian Zapdos right away. He doesn't play Choice Belt in his list, so the most possible damage that an Arceus V-Star could do next turn if he's able to Raihan and get an energy onto it, which, you know, there's a lot of cards he needs in the first place. He could do it with Starbirth, but there's a lot of things he's going to need to go right. If he could pull off an attack with Arceus V-Star, he's only going to be dealing 180 damage, which does not knock out this Galarian Zapdos.
And if you let that get another rep, it's just free prizes.
Yes.
You're falling way too far behind from there, Chip. Ordinary Rod, putting some energy back into the deck so we can use the Mirage Gate now to put them right back onto the Pokemon that we need.
Yeah, it needs.
But how do we get this Comfey out of the active? I didn't see anything in hand that was going to be able to swap this. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, I mean, this deck has so many switching cards, so worst case scenario,
we just attach with the Mirage Gate.
Yeah.
You have to choose different basic energy,
Yes.
but you can attach them in any way you like.
Yep, so we'll put one on the active and has an energy in hand in order to promote the Zapdos. And that's actually a minor thing that's really smart that Grafton just did, is he retreated off the water energy instead of attaching the fighting energy to the active Comfey and then putting, you know, the fighting in the water onto the bench Zapdos, because now that water energy is in the discard pile, he can get it back with Training Court, or he can put it back with Ordinary Rod so that he can utilize it with Crabominable later. It would not really make a lot of sense for that water energy to be locked up on the Zapdos.
Very subtle and very forward thinking, even though Grafton is very far ahead from this position, is still setting up for future plays. If there's anything Andrew can do to get out of this spot, Grafton is already set up with the next attacker in mind. From here, we've got the Ultra Ball. Are you just going to try to get the Arceus V-Star, get a Star Burst here? There we go. Yeah, we've got to claw out of this hold, Chip.
Yeah, he does have Quick Ball in hand, so now he could V-Star powers, use Starbirth, get an energy card, Quick Ball it away. He has Raihan in the hand, so he could pull off the attack this turn. But like I said...
Ooh, the Marnie's being eyeballed. I don't even know. I think you're too far behind. I don't even know if the Marnie's going to be... The disruption's going to matter from here.
If you Marnie plus replace the stadium, you have to hope that Grafton just doesn't find an energy, and that is a big ask. You know, that is really tough. I don't know that he's going that route. It looks like it will be the Raihan, and he's setting up the Marnie for the next turn. That makes a lot of sense. Okay,
gotcha.
Just go in with the Arceus, you know, still get the damage off into play, still get off the attack, but maybe more importantly, getting the energies onto your benched Duraludon V so that it can become a VMAX next turn. And his two cards in hand are actually Duraludon VMAX plus Marnie. So he's going to be riding on the back of this Duraludon for the rest of the game, and he's hoping that that is going to be enough for him to close it out.
After giving up 4 prizes, you know, that is going to be the final hope. We saw in game number 1, Grafton was not able to take any prizes whatsoever, just got completely shut down by that massive HP pool of the Duraludon VMAX. And now that Zapdos has done a little bit of work, we've gotten a lot more time to just fish through cards. The Crabominable needs to come through now for the Duraludon VMAX. And Grafton, as you pointed out, Chip, has already very subtly prepared for that by having the water energy in the discard pile.
Yeah, I actually wonder here as Grafton, if you ever don't knock out this Arceus, if you try to go for like an escape rope and get damage onto the Duraludon V, because knocking out this Arceus really doesn't help you get to your win con, as if assuming you're trying to play to the Sky Seal Stone. You know, hope that Andrew does put that Duraludon VMAX in play. Of course, why wouldn't he? You know, that's one of the main things of his deck. So yeah, we'll see what Grafton can do if he can find an escape rope or something along those lines. He does have Boss in hand. He might be content taking the KO with the active, but we'll see. He's got plenty of options. He's got a pretty large hand size to work with, at least.
There is a world, I think, right, where you take the option of just sprinkling a lot of damage onto the Duraludon V, and then you force Andrew to start playing very responsibly from this turn. And in that, you have to find the double turbo energy and the hyper potion to protect the Duraludon is like your final wall, your final line of defense here against a loss in game number 2. And that just gives Grafton a lot more time.
Look at this. So smart from Grafton. He knows he's playing to the Sky Seal Stone win con. And if I'm Andy, this is definitely something you're going to be thinking about here is, why is my opponent not taking this KO? Why do they want to hit into this Duraludon here? And we know Grafton's got that Sky Seal Stone waiting in the hand.
And if Andrew misses a beat, again, doesn't heal this Duraludon, it's going to be a lot of, it's going to be a lot of pressure coming through. More prizes. Fortunately, this isn't evolved yet, but as soon as Andrew does evolve it, and here it is, I believe that came right off the top.
Yep, had one in hand as well, so there's plenty of Duraludon to work with. It does get put into play, and it's going to be a question now of, can Andrew find his last Hyper Potion? Remember, there are 2 in the prize cards.
Yeah.
Which he does actually find his,
and the
his
DTE
last double turbo energy. He found his last double turbo energy and needed to find Hyper Potion, was not able to do it, and is actually going to manually retreat this Duraludon. Look at this.
Manually retreat, send that Arceus right back into the active. We can re-attack with the power, with the, Trinity Nova, and then just get some more energy onto the Duraludon V Max. And so with Zapdos going down, that's going to be 2 prizes for Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew also did have Lost City in hand, but chose not to play it here in this spot. Maybe wanting to keep Grafton away from Sableye. He's not quite to 10 just yet, so that could be a consideration. Putting that Zapdos in the Lost Zone would be pretty decent, though. That's something that can hit really hard.
It is a basic. You can get it back with Ordinary Rod. Just keep recycling it. It's incredibly solid damage output as well. Even if you aren't hitting for weakness, as we saw, you're still dealing very good damage. But once we go back over to Grafton, just goes for the Flower Selecting. Has a fighting energy as well from the training court.
So it's possible for Grafton to win this turn. He's got access to Sky Seal Stone in deck. Now, it is in the deck. It's not in his hand anymore because of that Marnie. But if he can find Sky Seal Stone and Escape Rope, which I do actually believe he already has Escape Rope, we could see him win the game by using Escape Rope, forcing up this Duraludon, and KOing it with the Star Order.
Concealed cards, getting rid of another water energy, drawing 2 more.
There's the crab. Yep.
So a lot of threat potential here. Goes for the Escape Rope right away. The target is acquired chip. The Duraludon VMAX now in the active spot. Grafton just needs to find the final pieces of the puzzle, even if Sky Seal Stone doesn't come through. You know, getting 3 prizes here is fantastic.
I think he may just have it. I think he's got Raihan in the hand. He hasn't played a supporter just yet, has he? So he's got Raihan.
Okay.
Oh, no, he needs, sorry, no, I don't think he has, he needs the Sky Seal Stone and he needs a Mirage Gate still. So those are, he needs one of those 2 pieces here, I think, off of Flower Selecting. If he can get one of those 2 pieces off of Flower Selecting, he can Raihan for the other one. Worst case scenario, he can still Colress to dig for both of them, but this is smart sequencing here. Use the Flower Selecting first, because if you see one of those 2 cards, now you can use Raihan to guarantee the other one to just win the game here.
The fail in the Pokegear also lets you shuffle the deck, so maybe that Sky Seal Stone is a little bit closer to the top.
Doesn't look like he got either of the pieces here, so it may be coming down to, can he find both of them off of Colress's Experiment? And that is much less likely. It's pretty reasonable that he would find the Mirage Gate, but it's much, much less likely that he's going to be able to find the Sky Seal Stone, as it is just a one of in the entire deck.
So Escape Rope goes to the Lost Zone from Flower Selecting, and Hisuian Heavy Ball also being used here.
Now, he doesn't have to win this turn. He can go for this play next turn as well. Like, Grafton could just pass here, or like retreat into Cramorant and at least hit, I guess, would probably be better. So, yeah, I mean, Grafton is in totally a fine spot. He's got like 2 or 3 turns to try to set this up.
It's great, too, because, you know, the single prize decks, that is one of the things that they do enjoy, is their ability to extend the game and just bide their time until these combos come through. Andrew's not running anything cheeky that allows you to somehow manipulate the prize race the way Grafton is.
Ordinary Rod will put 3 cards back, it looks like, the Zapdos and a Fighting and Water Energy. A little interesting that he's choosing to do this before. I'm assuming he's going to play the Colress's Experiment this turn. Or does he have it?
Ooh, shows the Crabominable V.
Does he have a Mirage Gate in hand?
I think I saw a glimpse of it, Chip.
If he may just have it here if that is the case. If he's got Mirage Gate or Sky Seal Stone, he can close it out here.
Yeah, so Raihan has to find the Sky Seal Stone if the Mirage Gate's already in hand.
He might just be going for the knockout on this Duraludon. Might not be going for the win with the Sky Seal Stone play. Might just be okay clearing this Duraludon out of play and putting this Crabominable into the active that has 220 HP that Arceus V-Star cannot knock out.
It's a great idea, and we saw that Grafton had already, after taking those early prize cards, has the Galarian Zigzagoon, can set up for the Crabominable V and that Destroyer Punch quite easily. And Yep just goes for the Mirage Gate and the attachment. Comfey has an energy attached as well, can retreat. And then Primate Wisdom also giving a little bit of resiliency versus Marnie, saving a little bit for later.
Yep, looking really solid, and we know that Andrew loves to play the Marnies, and this makes a lot of sense. You know, you don't have to go for the flashy Sky Seal Stone play. Just clear this Duraludon, take it out, and you know your Crabominable cannot be knocked out this turn. So, I mean, even worst case scenario, next turn you hit this Arceus for 90 damage. That can set it up to be knocked out by Zapdos later on down the line, which we just saw getting put back into the deck.
Yep, so in game number 2, Grafton all the way down to 1 prize card remaining. Andrew has this vulnerable Arceus V-Star in the active. We saw the Zapdos shuffled back into the deck with Ordinary Rod. Its natural predator lurking within Grafton's deck now. and there is no Duraludon to retreat to as of yet. There's Duraludon V, still very vulnerable on this turn because you have to wait until next turn for Duraludon V Max.
Right, and this is what Andrew's play is. Gets another Duraludon V down and try to power it up. You know, hope that your Arceus doesn't get KO'd this coming turn. Get a bunch of energies onto this Duraludon V, make it a V Max next turn, and hope that Grafton is unable to find Boss or Escape Rope to close out the game and all the other pieces he needs alongside those things.
It's looking pretty unlikely, unfortunately, Chip. Andrew had a much clunkier setup than we saw in game number 1. And if this goes to game number 3, it's going to be about 10 minutes left, I'd say, to find a resolution to this game. Never would you see normally a single prize Lost Zone deck like this do so well into Arceus and Duraludon, but Grafton has anticipated this, has some fantastic tech choices for the metagame, plays down the Lost Zitty now to get rid of that training core into the Marnie. Grafton's not feeling too much pressure from here, however. There is one card on top of the deck from that Primate Wisdom, so he's still going to have an out here. I believe it's Colress's Experiment, so he's ready to go.
5 cards here for Andrew. Does find that Hyper Potion, something that could come into play. He did choose to put the double turbo energy onto the active Arceus. Did think for a moment about putting it onto the Duraludon V so that he could prep for a future Hyper Potion, but in the end it did end up going onto the active, so it's just going to be 160 damage now from the Trinity Nova. Grafton will draw here for turn. He could theoretically win. He would need Zigzagoon and a lot of Scoop Up Nets, or Scoop Up Net and a way to power Zapdos up.
Yeah, we've got the Zapdos and Mirage Gate being offered from Colress's Experiment, so a little bit of pressure there.
He also needs a way to get this Crabominable out of the active. It does have a massive 4 retreat cost,
heavy boy.
So he needs to get another energy on it to retreat it, or a switch card or something like that.
And yeah, and Grafton's not going to take that risk, right, of just attacking in with the Crabominable. It's not going to do much without any damage on the Arceus, maybe trying to set up for Cramorant.
Yeah, it might be all he can do, though, is the thing. I mean, he can't retreat it as of now. If he doesn't have a switching card, he can't move it to the bench.
Yeah, the bench is full, so no Zapdos hitting the stage just yet.
Looks like a Rangaroo Primate Wisdom coming through.
Got to see one more card, Chip. And it's the Zigzagoon.
But that bench is full as of now. So
oh, no.
Grafton is actually hanging on to a pretty good combo of cards here. He's going to play the Mirage Gate. I was going to say he has Zapdos in hand, so Mirage Gate could pull the pieces out for Zapdos later. But, oh, is there no fighting energy left in the deck right now? I actually don't see any, so Zapdos, as of now, would not even be able to attack.
Oh, yeah, I think one was sent to the Lost Zone a long time ago, Chip.
Yeah, and one is on this active Crabominable.
So things getting a little bit
and he doesn't have a way to recover that energy. I don't see an Ordinary Rod remaining in the deck. Andrew just
double checking. What's going on here?
Andrew did just bump the Training Court as well. Maybe Grafton was banking on having access to that, but yeah, as of now, there's no way for him to power up Zapdos. He's just going to have to swing with this Crabominable, it looks like, in this spot. And yeah, we're seeing a fail of the Mirage Gate. That is not something you see too often, especially when there were 2 energies in the deck.
Oh my goodness. And this is the downside of the Lost Box. You're trying to play towards very specific things in the mid-late game, and the resources just are no longer there. There's an energy in the Lost Zone. It's in the discard pile somehow. Grafton didn't keep track, you know, with the Training Court, and now we're in this very awkward situation where you've got a 2-prize Pokemon in the active spot, just deals 90 with that Destroyer Punch, and it's back over to Andrew. A much-needed breath of fresh air, a lot of breathing room now offered to Andrew to get re-established. We have the Duraludon V on the bench with the energy attached. Colress's Experiment finding 3 cards.
Yeah, and this is going to pay off big time for Andrew because he put the double turbo on the Arceus last turn. Now he has Hyper Potion in hand. He can heal all of that damage off, basically erasing Grafton's entire last turn, and he has 2 Pokemon in play with a ton of hit points because there is an Ultra Ball in hand, and that tells me that Duraludon VMAX is coming.
Yeah, the Destroyer Punch needs to set up. It has to build up some momentum, and with the bench being full, you know, the Zigzagoon was not able to come through at all to help with that.
So Andrew's got to debate what is the card he can lose, and I think Training Court is going to go down, and Grafton's probably going to be a little sad to see that go because that is a piece that could let him get a fighting energy back, and Andrew's just going to discard it. Not something Grafton's going to have access to. And here comes Duraludon VMAX number 2.
We thought that Grafton was in full control of this game.
He seemed like in a good position, yeah.
And now, by just letting up on that gas, giving up on that momentum just slightly, Andrew has now fully set up here. A healthy Arceus V-Star in the active spot. Duraludon VMAX fully powered up on the bench, ready to start chaining those max pulverizations. And game number 2 is slowly but surely approaching its end here.
We do see the hard retreat into the Duraludon, and that will be a knockout. That G-Max pulverization. Grafton sending up this Comfy, looking for some way to close this out. He's got Zapdos, and he had Mirage Gate last turn. He's down both Raihan. He's down Training Court. He's down both Ordinary Rod as well. I just don't know if he can piece it together, unless maybe there's an Ordinary Rod still hiding in the deck. I know he has certainly played at least one. I didn't notice it in his deck last turn when he was searching through it. I don't see it there in the Lost Zone. It may have already been played, though. That could be the question.
Yeah, we've got a Colress's Experiment in the hand to see some more cards. We've got another Comfey. We've got Primate Wisdom. A lot of cards can still be seen, Chip, but it's just a matter of where are all the pieces. There's one Fighting Energy in the discard pile, 2 in the discard pile. Have to find the Ordinary Rod.
Yeah, and here it is. Mirage Gate would have almost been enough. Grafton's playing this Colress as well.
I think there's 2 Rod in the discard pile. Those are all down.
Yeah, it looks like there's no Rod. There is no way to recover this Fighting Energy. So Zapdos is not an option for Grafton. Raihans are both down. All the energy recovery's down. All the energies are down. So now the question becomes, how does he take his last prize? He has 1 prize card remaining. How does he close this out?
You can see the wheels turning. Grafton looking very disappointed in the outcome of this match. He was fully in the driver's seat, but now just has no way to get these fighting energy back out of the discard pile. And we're pivoting, trying to find Sableye. That's the only thing. And we saw Grafton gave up on Raikou much earlier in the match, sent that to the Lost Zone because the rest of the deck was already coming through. And finally, in the 11th hour, Andrew Gantner has stabilized, and the skyscraper looms large over this Comfey and friends.
Only 2 prizes remaining for Andrew as well, so Grafton needs to come up with a 2-hit knockout somehow, some way. Cramorant can deal some damage. Well, it could. Not anymore now that it's got an energy on it.
Yep, there it is, Capture Energy. Gets Sableye out of the deck, onto the bench. That final card is Sky Seal Stone. Adding insult to injury, seeing the Seal Stone at this position. And we've got to retreat into the Cramorant. It's only going to deal 110.
It can't even do that anymore, though, because of that capture.
Because of the special energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, my God.
So it's just a retreat into Sableye. Can't attach because he already attached the capture energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that has to come back into his hand, and Grafton can't do anything. He's going to lose this one. Andrew gets the win.
Wow. Andrew Gantner going 2-0 versus this Crabominable Galarian Zapdos Lost Box deck. Piloting the deck incredibly efficiently, even when it looked like things were going not his way in the second game, manages to stabilize and bring it back. What a spectacular best of 3.
I got to feel like that game just got away from Grafton at some point. He was in a really solid spot, and I maybe wonder if he should not have attacked with Crabominable the turn that he chose to take the knockout on the Duraludon. The turn he went to just 1 prize card remaining. He didn't really need to do that. He could have held off for a turn and built up to the Sky Seal Stone play in one of 2 or 3 future turns, because he could have just left all 1 prizers in play. Hindsight maybe 2020, but it ends up being a win for Andrew, getting a 2-0 over a really unique Lost Box deck with the Arceus Duraludon as well, a deck that we talked about in the early part of the show, kind of being on a decline coming into this weekend. It seemed like a lot of people were hedging their bets towards that Hisuian Gudra V-Star after Stefan Ivanov's 2nd place finish in Liverpool just a couple weekends ago. But hey, Andrew decided Duraludon's still